Hello!
Hey everybody,
We
Mary
are
Mitchell.
live
We're live.
on Facebook for Wellness Wednesday.
Welcome to Wellness Wednesday, everybody. I'm Dr. Keith Bell coming to you from Richmond, Virginia, my holistic health clinic. You know, Wellness Wednesday is brought to you by artists striving to end poverty, and it's where we bring together practitioners of the healing arts and the creative arts together to support wellness in the entire community. And this is my co-host, Mary Mitchell Campbell.
Hi, I'm Mary Mitchell. Thank you for coming to Wellness Wednesday. And I have two really awesome guests with us today, Vasthy Mompoint and Mason Granger. There they
Yeah,
are in all their awesomeness. Um,
awesome.
they're fantastic artists. They are fantastic activists, and they are really changing the world in the middle of this insanity of this pandemic. It is now September, everyone. September. We have made it this far in 2020, and it's a
We have
lot.
made it.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I think there's a lot of scars that have occurred during this process, but we are really grateful you are with us. Vasti and I actually worked together recently on the Broadway in a musical called The Prom. It
Yay.
was very exciting.
It
But
was.
thank you so much for being here. My first question for you both is, how are you taking care of yourselves in the midst of all of this insanity?
Well, we're in California, so we have like the happy privilege of being able to be outside a lot and walk and like run, and we like escape a lot. Like we've gone to the desert, we've gone to the mountains. We just kind of are just like we get to a point where we're like, okay, I was like, I need to go, so we just go away and we come back and reset. But it's just like resting as much as possible. I have a little meditation group that I'm in that I that's helped me keep up with that, and we have been cooking super healthy. Just all the things that we know, what we
Hmm.
can control, are those things. so
Exactly.
so we're trying to do that.
I have repeated the Serenity Prayer more in 2020 than I have ever said it, I think, in my entire life.
I have the Serenity Prayer tattooed on my body in different places.
Really?
Yeah, I have
Huh.
this for serenity, for courage, and for wisdom.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure if I pointed to the right place for all of them, but they're all. I was just like somewhere.
I trust you.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, we have talked about many times on this show with wellness. If you can find one thing that you have control over, be it your diet, exercise, meditation, it tricks the brain into thinking you have control over more in your life. So it actually makes you more optimistic.
Ooh.
Mason, how have you been doing?
Been doing good. Been doing good. Been doing like kind of the. I mean, obviously the same stuff. We're here together, but on like scales like getaways, and on the smaller scale of just like I need to go right now. What can I do? Okay, I can run around the block and go do that, or can go drive. Like in LA, like we can drive 20 minutes and we can see the ocean for 15 minutes and come back home if we have to keep doing work. But whatever it is, to just be able to, like you said, have some control over what is immediately happening and what is immediately like your life right in front of you. Be like, I'm gonna do this now, and
Yeah.
you do what you can.
And we make fun of each other to make each other laugh. Like
Humor.
instead of people getting like, because it'd be easy to get on each other's nerves. So instead, like if he gets on my nerves, I imitate him. And if I get on his nerve, he imitates me. And it's actually like, we recommend that to anybody because it actually really helps.
Do we get to see an imitation?
I mean, they're not even like good imitations. He always makes his voice high and like he's like, "Oh, boss, Mason, will you please make sure you put the toilet seat down?" Like things like that. It works.
Important. It
It
works.
works.
Yeah, well, Mary Mitchell left out the part when she told me you were going to be guests that you were a couple. So I had no clue
Oh,
until I researched you. And
I
what
like
can
to keep you guessing, Dr. Keith. I don't
yeah.
one
these like
noun?
breadcrumbs. You have to like put it together.
So yeah, so I was like, what do you call it when you? I was stalking you on Facebook, and
That makes me happy. I'm like, yay,
You're like,
stalking.
I'm
yay!
stalking you on Facebook. And what can you tell me? What took you to tell us what took you to LA? It's something important, right?
Yes. So, ironically, I was sick and I was like not able to for the first time ever, I wasn't able to like distract myself from not feeling well by like doing a lot of things, which is how I usually cope with stress, is by overworking. And I wasn't able to sing, I wasn't able to dance, and I like have an artistic bug. I have to be doing something. So I started writing, and it just started healing me. And then I started writing like a little bit of sketch comedy. And so I had been asked to audition for the CBS Sketch Comedy Showcase a few years, like 3 or 4 years in a row now, but I never did it because I was like, who am I? I don't know how to do that. I'm a dance, I'm an ensemble. I'm not on the ensemble in the background. I don't have that skill. But I was just like, you know what? Whatever. I know life is short. Let's do it. And I did it. And we were sitting on the couch, and I was just like, I think it's time to leave New York. My body's not keeping up with the New York. It just wasn't getting better. And like, what, 10 minutes later, CBS called and said that we got that I'd gotten the gig. And so 3 weeks later, we headed to LA. I did, and then he came afterwards. And then he got like this amazing job.
Yeah, so I was working. I was the executive director of Bowery Poetry in New York, and once she got the call, we got the call that LA. I reached out to a youth poetry organization that I knew was active and pretty prominent out here, and said, "Hey, so I'm coming in. Got any place for me?"
It's
And
so random.
we chatted up, went to the office. It turned out like, poetry world is small, and so we had a lot of overlapping connections, and yeah, just slid right in, and now I'm there doing the biz with the kids.
All right. Well,
That's so amazing and so
it
powerful.
is.
I mean, A-Step has done a lot of work in poetry with kids, and it's so interesting to me. We do a lot of work with youth who are dealing with incarceration issues, and I find that the poetry work with them has been the most profound. Like reading their poetry and seeing how they respond to poetry is pretty life-changing. What have you sort of experienced from this work?
Yeah, and so like as you're saying that, two instances came to mind where we did one. This was a while ago in Lancaster, California, at the juvenile detention center there, and it when we're going in and we're like, we're going to do poems about how we feel, like it's kind of innate, it's social constructs of why we think that that's going to be awkward, where really we're dealing with human beings, we're dealing with kids, and so like we all feel the same. But anyway, so we walk in, and we do the poems, and just to see the guard come down, not the guards stayed, but to see just the kids open up in an environment where you walk in, it's so just like on guard, can't show any emotion. And so even at the end of the show, one kid in the front is like, huh, that's the equivalent of uproarious applause and laughter, and then
Right.
speaking to them afterwards, you really get the sense of what's happening. And then when we do the workshops, and they get a chance to express their voice, I mean, a lot of them, it's sad, but they don't get. It's the first time that anyone is asked, like, so how do you feel in the situation where they find themselves? That's just not something that happens, and so they take to it like any human being would when given a chance to express. So it's very rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah, both of you in your work, you're helping kids find their voice. And I want to talk about that in a second. But I do want to say, Mason, when I was researching you yesterday, you actually changed me. Bro. You know how everybody has a word that they hate?
Uh-huh.
I hate that word, bro. But you put it in another context. And we could spend the entire hour talking about that poem and how deep it is. But look, if somebody could create CrossFit and Habitat, put it together, CrossFit and Habitat for Humanity, that's brilliant. So why haven't we done it?
It's out there, man. We're all doing work and doing labor, and like a lot of the times it's just a matter of focusing it, man. You want to work your muscles, build a house. There's people who need a place to live. Yeah. Oh, we'll
I
talk.
love it. You said what if when we pick things up, we do something with it? Or, what if when we run, we go somewhere? Or it's easy to build your life around everything you're against. But tell me, what are you for? I mean, that's some powerful shit.
Thank you.
in your poetry. So I'm like, you have to be changing lives.
He does. It's so cool to see. I mean, because I think he's used to it. So sometimes you don't see when you're used to doing things, what impact you have. It's just what happens. But we were together for like 5 years before I even saw one of his, because I can't go to the school events. I'm not allowed to go. And that's where he mostly does his kid events. I've seen his stuff for adults, but watching the kids, like, cause it's like everyone's like cool. And then by the end, they're just like engaged. And I love seeing that. Cause they're like, oh, who are these guys talking about poetry? And by the end, they're like sharing stuff and they're open and vulnerable. It's so, so cool.
It's so powerful and so transformative. And, my work at A-Step has been about creating that space and then convincing kids that they could go to college, right? It's like, use that imagination and dream of something bigger. And like, let's figure out how you're going to do it. But I just think there's so many important, people really underestimate the power of the arts to create that kind of transformation, because like you said, the guards go down.
Yeah, and that's how everything that's different from what is tangibly around you first starts as just somebody's imaginative idea. And so yeah, that's the arts. And so everything that's going to be something real first starts as somebody's art sometime yesterday or 500 yesterdays ago. And so that the only way to move forward is to move into the leading edge of art, be it your own or each other's, or yeah.
Well, I'm intrigued. Yes, I'm intrigued by the fact that during this time of like global crisis, you two you've been so creative. You found a way to be so creative. And I'm curious about how you've done that.
Well, it's like so many different things. So last year, as I mentioned, I was sick, and for the first time, I had to stop and sit with myself. And so for 4.5 months, I was in my own personal quarantine, where I was at home, where I had to like be alone, and I was like, in the end, it was great because I got to like you face all your things. There's nothing distracting you, but it's also very tough. And I had the skills to I had spirituality, I had meditation, I had friends and family and writing and books to help me through that as an artist. But I was like, most of the world is not going to know what to do with all of this. And so as soon as I was like, people are about to be quarantined, I looked at him and I was like, people have no idea what they're about to go through, because we went through that. He had to see me go through it. We basically went through it together. So I was like, I was like, what do we have the power to do? We have the power to help create joy while these parents are probably going through these things. I was like, I want to be able to, and that's how it started. Then George Floyd happened. That was a whole other story, which we'll get into. But in the beginning, it was just to help create joy for these kids and to show kids that they're still in a happy world, because we knew that the adults would be like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, which was normal. So it was that. And it was, we wanted to, yeah, we just wanted to bring joy. And we were lucky because he had.
Yeah, through all the poetry work, a big part of it for me has always been trying to capture the magic that happens in a live show and transmit it around to people who don't happen to live in New York or LA or places with vibrant cultural hubs. You could be just like the one poetry kid in Ames, Iowa, and kind of the only way you have to connect is going to be through videos, through the internet. And so have all this video equipment, spent years being a videographer for national poetry events, and so and where we handled live streams. And so when we were stuck here and everybody kind of just build what you can with what you happen to have, I happen to have a bunch of live streaming equipment.
It was all like a perfect storm. I was able to, basically with the show, I get to use my improv, dance, music, and film and TV skills all in one thing. And he uses all of his tech skills plus his creative mind to design. Like he's like, that doesn't work. And so together, it was like, we never knew that we would work this well. Like we worked so well together. Not
so
that
the show we're talking about is Vasty's Friends, correct?
Yeah, tell us what the show is.
Tell us about that, because a lot of people, we haven't even brought that up yet. But yeah, tell us about Vasty's Friends.
So again, before it started as a way we wanted to help parents take a load off, we were like, we engaged the kids virtually, so like parents could step away for a minute, and we would like hang out with the kids and like sing songs and do all the stuff. And I literally just propped my phone up on some books, and it was just me doing stuff. And we started with like 6 families with what we did before, and then it grew to like 900 something people that were like registered. And so I was like, let's do this on a different level. Let's make this like a platform. And so basically, I host every single show, and we bring on a Broadway or a theater guest, just in the theater world in general, to come on and either sing a song or host a dance party. And these aren't classes to help kids be a star. They're literally just to have fun. No one's teaching them vocal technique. No one's teaching them to like hold your chest up and push your shoulders down. It's just to have fun, because that doesn't really exist. Everything is like masterclass related, and it's like art's supposed to actually be fun as well. So it's just that. And then when George Floyd happened, it became a whole other thing where I was reading what a lot of people of color were writing about their trauma of what it's like to be Black, not just here but on the planet. And so much of it was based in their childhood. When I was a kid, this, when I was a kid, when I was a kid, when I was a kid. And I was like, of course. And like, we don't, not seeing yourself reflected back on you when you're a kid is so important. And then on the other side, for like people that are not of color, normalizing seeing people of color is also important, and talking about what's really happening without being dark, but just being real. And I was in childcare for 20 years. There's always an age where a kid starts to see that I'm Black. It's every single, it's like between 2 or 3 where all of a sudden, and they'll say something really cute. Like one kid asked me if I had a brown butt. One kid, one, like, they're just hilarious. One kid
Did you
was
say
like,
I have the Serenity Prayer tattooed
I was
on
like,
my
I'm a
brown
center
belt?
anyway. One kid like paint herself brown. She's like, I'm like you. Like, because they all of a sudden they realize, and I was like, so they do. Parents don't think kids realize, but they do. And there's a small window, a very small window, where you have to show them that being LGBTQ plus is normal, being a Black person is normal, being there, everyone is human. But it's a small window before the world tells them otherwise.
Yeah, and so we've taken all of that like intention, and what it tangibly is a kids show that we live stream from. Right now it looks like we're in a fancy studio. We're in our dining room in our apartment. uh, and so we stream out from here, and imagine Mr. Rogers, except instead of Mr. Rogers it is Vasti. And then when they send it off to this segment, this segment, this segment, they're sending it off to talented Broadway performers all over who are singing and dancing and doing original skits and puppetry and all kinds of stuff. And the kids totally dig it.
And all the hosts of kids shows since kids shows have started, have like 99% of them have been white men. And that doesn't make any sense. Not even women, not even white women. There's one white woman. And so that was the other thing where it was like, that's interesting. How odd.
Yeah.
That's odd. I never even noticed that. And so I get to break 2 barriers of being one of the few Black people that's ever hosted a kids show beside LeVar Burton. And then also getting to be a woman besides, forgot her name, also, Lamb Chop.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Is that the one?
Sherry,
Was that a child show? I couldn't remember.
yeah, I love Lamb Chop, and I love her, and I say her name, and I completely forgot her name right now. She's the only one. That's
Well,
weird.
how did the parents watching find this? How do they find Vasti's friends?
Well, just through social media and like word of mouth that
Yeah,
we're
and
just
it's
doing now.
vastysfriends.com is the website that is up and active, and that's going to be the platform where these episodes that we're filming right now are going to live. And so we do live stream events where and there's a link on the website where you can register and pop in,
And they're free.
and they are free. And then this is all like generating content that we're editing together, animators and such out in the world working right now. And then each of these episodes are going to live on the platform and will be subscribable and beamable all around the world.
And we've been able to raise almost $10,000 for like organizations that we love, like the Parents Artists Advocacy League. They're an amazing nonprofit, one of the few that supports artist parents who are having like always have trouble, but now are just like it's like in dire dire help. And we do things with we have a commitment with the Children's Miracle Network, so we get to do stuff with children's hospitals. and all these like amazing organizations. So like everybody wins.
I love that you focus on joy. I love it. I found a quote that you said that says, the kind of education we're giving them is social education. And the most important thing I try to teach them is that joy is a choice. You have to make a choice every day where you can find happiness. It's so important. People don't realize that. They don't realize that you actually have to seek out joy. And for you all to actually be teaching these kids. And I also love that you said that you've had to normalize uh, you've had to normalize being Black and show that Black people are joyous.
Yeah, it's so there are a lot of things that I didn't even realize until some of the Black moms and Asian moms were like saying they're like, wow, there's actually no happy positive figures. Everything is like maturely based in like the Black community as far as entertainment. There is none. There are like some preteen stuff on Nickelodeon, Disney that are coming up soon, which is great. But there's nothing geared towards kids, like kids.
Mhm.
And again, by the time kids are tweens, they've already made up their minds about all the things. They already feel all the things. But who's taking care of these like mini humans that are trying to like form their
Form a
opinion?
worldview, like in a very important window. What age do you gear this program to?
2 to like 8, really.
Yeah, 2 to 8.
And then we also work with special needs kids, so like age is so relative. So we say that's the suggested age, but then we have like we've done some stuff with the JCC, the Jewish Community Center, yeah, who I love very much. They have amazing programs for adults with on the spectrum. So we've been doing stuff with them. So really, it's just suggested age. But we have, sometimes we'll have kids that just run around in circles. They don't know what's going on. It's fun, but they look happy. It's great.
Sherry Lewis was
Jerry
the
Lewis.
Bing,
yes,
bing, bing.
yes. I looked it up. I had to look it up because it was going to bother me to not know. You also have a new partnership with A-Step.
Ah,
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, we
And
do.
so yeah, this Vasti's Friends content that we're streaming live and are building episodes for is going to be available for everyone, ASTEP and ASTEP partners. ASTEP. ASTEP and ASTEP partners.
Step.
you
Beamed,
get poetry
beamed
license.
I know, yeah.
We're going to take a step.
We're gonna provide it to all of our children and their younger siblings, and it's very, very, very exciting.
It's so exciting, and all the artists are. That's the cool thing is that like these people really are my friends, and so everybody gets everyone's just excited to know that they're going to because we're also able to pay our friends. Like I think that if you have even if you have $20 right now and you think that and you're hiring an artist you want an artist to do something, give them $20. This is not the same world as it was 6 months ago. People in the theater community are so empathetic and giving, and everybody does stuff for free all the time. This is not the time to do that. They don't have money. And so even if it's not a lot, we make sure that we, are able to pay them. And so they're getting paid, they're getting to do good, and they're getting to be artistic. And so it's just like, it's a beautiful little community we've created amongst our little staff.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I mean, I'm so excited about it. And I think what's really powerful about it is what you mentioned about representation and really sort of establishing this anti-racist philosophy at this really important window of development. I
Yeah.
mean,
And I think it works the same of how and now like the conversations about white supremacy and the structure and how like embedded in a lot of just the world, the ambient air almost of the culture as it's developed thus far, it is seeing just how it's so there that it's hard to point your finger at from as far back as any of us can remember. And so kind of the approach that it's similar of just like just showing just Vasti interacting with all of the artists who we have on and have it just be that just is what it is. And so that becomes the norm instead of the norm in a lot of shows. You look to the older square-jawed white man and he's always the ultimate authority. Well, we have someone else as the authority, and it's not a thing that's pushed, it just is. And so it's just as ambient. We want that to be
Mm-hmm.
just as subliminally normal as the other is. This is what's
Exactly.
normal now.
Exactly. And the kids
Right.
love, they don't care. Kids, because my favorite thing about kids right now is that they have no idea what's going on.
That's true. Well, no
Right.
one, the
And neither
parents.
do dogs, and neither do dogs, and neither do cats. And I love dogs and cats and kids because they're just like, I don't know, everyone's home. This is cool.
Right.
Um,
True. That's true. They're very excited about that.
but they do feel like they're not emotionally like turned off. I think people think kids are. I was like, they don't know what's happening exactly, but they can feel it.
They can.
And again, that is why we're trying to like, you know, talk, just talk to them about these things, but not make it so, it doesn't have to be so serious. I definitely think that we've messed up in the society by saying, don't talk about social issues or religion or politics, because now we don't know how, because we never learned how. We
Mm,
100% need to talk about those things. What are we talking? What were we thinking? Who told us that? It's terrible advice.
Well, not only do we need to talk, we need to listen.
Yeah. And that's the thing. We don't have those skills
Yeah.
because we've never talked about it. So then when someone's talking, you're like, no, 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 no. And it's like, if we learn as kids to talk about these things, talk about things you don't understand. There is social issues, some issues that I am becoming more familiar with now, that are new, because there's always going to be something else. Doesn't matter what you're. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm first generation. I'm Black. I'm a woman. I have all the things, but there are even things that I don't understand that I'm learning. So like, yeah, I think that we need to start talking and learn how to talk
And
about
learning, yeah.
if I were a young child, I would love for you to be the one teaching me. I
Oh,
just want,
yes.
I really would. I mean, having gotten to work with Vasti, you are joy personified.
it. And you are too, though, because she just makes jokes. She just makes so much
So,
jokes.
She just doesn't want anybody to
She makes
know.
fun of, like, instead of being like, you guys got it wrong, she just like, oh, okay, guys, that was like, she just like teases us.
no,
Interesting.
I totally am.
That
I'm just
was
like, has
that
to
was
be.
an interesting
That
choice.
was an interesting choice.
Mhm.
Let's try that again.
Yeah, that's what it is. That was a good shot, guys.
That was good effort. Let's go back.
Let's do it again. There's always she's like, can I say more? No, let's just do it again.
Let's just do it. No, it's true. It's true.
So great.
But you are Joy. So that it is it's such a beautiful, I mean, it is such a beautiful thing that has come out of this crazy time.
It is.
I'm curious about, I know because I know you referenced it a couple times. I'm curious about having gone through the sickness and sort of facing all the things that you about yourself that we all try to avoid about ourselves and sort of going to through doing that hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before you answer that, I do want to add, because I read an article, and you may have written it or have been an interview that says, I am broken, but I am Vasthy Mompoint.
Mhm.
And when you're talking about touching with your work here, people of color, you've also touched a lot of women, because there are a lot of women suffering from issues such as you. And because they look fine and they look normal, people don't take them seriously. And I've been working in female health for 20 years, and I see patients every day coming in with issues that you expressed in this article. But I want to hear how you answer to Mary Mitchell. But how did you find that strength to actually have the courage to let people know that you were broken, but you're still you?
Yeah, well, what happened was I hadn't been feeling good for years, but I was like, don't stop, don't stop, not supposed to stop. American dream, American dream, American dream. It's not enough, it's not enough, it's not enough. And that's what we do. Like, we live in a country where you're looked down upon if you work at McDonald's, when in other places where, like my house and like Haiti, like having a job is something to be proud of. But it's set up here so that if you're not doing the heightest of the height of the height, then you're not doing enough and you need to go further and you need to go further. And meanwhile, I had done all these Broadway shows, I accomplished all those things, and I still didn't think I did anything. I was like, it's not enough, it's not enough. And so I don't even know what I was judging myself against, some unnatural thing that we all do. And so I kept ignoring anything. I was ignoring that my hair was falling out. I was ignoring like the intense weight loss, the depression, there was just so much. And then I had a miscarriage, and instead of like emotionally dealing with that, I just did more. I did more and more and more. And then that's what just, and then everything just built. And then I ended up getting, it's very rare for the fibroids I had to affect me in the way that they did, but they were literally just they were shutting down my organs, my blood supply. And then I had to have the surgery. And it was when I stopped, the first week was fine because people were visiting me and it was great. 2 weeks, I was like, this is great. I wasn't really mentally there. I was like, this is awesome. I'm resting. And then it was the first day that I was like, oh, I didn't plan any visitors for today. I was like, actually, great. I have a day to myself. This is awesome. And he was at work. He went back to work. And I sat on the couch and I cried for like 4 hours because I hadn't, like, it was just like I broke open and I wrote that article at that moment. Um, and that's how I felt in that moment, because I was like, what have I been doing? Because if you are, and yes, I do say this, if you are lucky enough to survive something when you're sick and still be alive, you are lucky enough to be able to like have a second life. I can't remember what his name is, this rabbi. He said, we all get two lives. The second one begins, the first, what is it?
We get two lives, and the second one begins when you realize you only have one.
Yes. Nice.
I'm gonna take credit for the quote.
But yeah, that's what it. And I was like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing? Why am I not stopping? Why am I not calling my friends back? Why am I not calling my parents back enough? Why am I not spending enough time with my husband? Why am I not just sitting? We're always just moving. And so when you do that, you don't face your sadness or your fears. And I feel like that's what's happening to a lot of people now.
Yes.
Is that we're like, you haven't sat with it. And it's terrible, but you have to sit with your fears. You have to sit with your darkness, because if you don't, it'll just be like this until you acknowledge it. And it's just like, yeah. And so you do that, and then it just weighs you down. And then we cover that in overeating and over drinking, over caffeinating, binge watching, all those things, so that we don't feel it. And I couldn't do those things, and I did a lot of those things, and I couldn't do those anymore. And
So
so
it's almost like you were broken before, and the illness is what made you whole.
it 100% did. The illness changed my life completely. Without the illness, we wouldn't be in California. Without the illness, we would not have done this. And I knew what was happening. I was like, this is like something. This is supposed to be happening, and I knew that there was something in my soul that made me feel that way. So, it changed my life, and I'm trying to use my voice more. I used to like, you know, I'm a woman. I'm from the South. I'm Black. I'm a dancer. I'm in the ensemble. All of those things require you to just mostly be like this, and it's just like.
Which I think leads us to a really good moment to talk about what happened with George Floyd's death and sort of the deep movement and acknowledgement of systemic racial oppression in our country.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, what a light
There
topic.
you go, Mary Mitchell.
But it's
Bring us up.
like bringing it in. But I do think there's something really, I have had many conversations, and it's funny what you just said, Vasti, about putting your hand in front of your mouth, and some friends of mine who were like, I'm realizing I need to unmute myself. Like, I need to unmute myself in this moment, like realizing that they need to speak up and like, and help lead like what you're doing, leading.
It's so much of what's happening. Oh, sorry, you gonna say something? Oh, is like it's so ancestral in all of us. It's so like and until people really realize that, and I'm talking about both Black and white, realize all of that, nothing's gonna change.
Right.
Because I will stand by this statement, that there is nothing scarier for anyone, white or Black or Latin or Asian or Jewish or whatever, than standing up for a Black person. Because historically, when you did that, that could ruin your career, that could ruin your life, you could die, blah, 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 even if it's the brave thing to do. And so there's a lot of fear. It's fear. There's a fear. There's a fear for us because we just want to, it's like survivor skills. I grew up being one of the few Black people in, like growing up. I went to a high school with like over 600 people, and I think there were like 5 Black people in the whole graduating class, and I didn't even really fit in there because of the immigrant thing. So because that's a whole other thing. But it's ingrained. And what happened to Black people, and I don't even know why this one was different. I honestly don't know why. I think it was the quarantine, which is another reason I'm like, this was all, I think the planet's giving us another chance. Like, I'm going to give y'all one last chance. But like, it was like all of a sudden someone waved a magic wand and they're like enough. And they broke all of it. And we all realized how much we were faking. And so that's one of the reasons for the it's anger, but it's also a lot of like, you know, days and days. I replayed everything anybody has ever said to me ever. It was in there. We store it in our bodies. It was in there. And it wasn't just me, it was everybody. And we had two different experiences being Black. He grew up in Philadelphia and went to all Black high school. Um, you know, like his complexion makes his, the way he walks through life different, being a man. Me being dark skinned woman and from Alabama and having parents that are American, it's a whole different thing. But we both have, you know, we have our struggles in it. We've been able to talk about that stuff that we haven't even really talked about before.
Yeah, I think that it's so, being someone who listened to like Rage Against the Machine growing up as a teenager. Okay, and that was all those things being said in the early 90s, and obviously even before that, but just within my lifetime and engagement with it, would have been called radical. And saying that there's an episode of Fresh Prince where they're in the courthouse and Jazzy Jeff won't put his hands down because the bailiff is there, and he's like, no, I'm not trying to get any warning shots in the back, and that early 90s. But that's stuff that's like kind of right offable, like you hear it but it kind of rolls off because there's the whole rest of the world, and like the whole rest of your world is still there to divert. And but then over time, as more and more things happen that are just more and more unignorable, like Ferguson, and then moving on to Freddie Gray, and moving on, and it's just been like building and building. But people are we're still able to look the other way, or you know, look to their go-to diversions. Whereas now it's a combination of the two, where it's just to the point where no reasonable person can ignore that this isn't a radical thing. This isn't like oh, this is what the isolated incident is the term always used. Like you can't deny that, combined with the fact that there is no other diversion to look to now. And so combining those two things with quarantine, it's like, no, this is at the point where you, a reasonable human being, has to accept that this is the reality of the world, and there's no other place for you to look but here, and sit with that right now, and reckon with whatever that means to you and the life that you were doing before. We have to engage in this now.
Yeah, and like understanding that Black Lives Matter is not just about getting police shooting people, which is a big problem and a big deal, and what is sparking the anger. But it's like, I would love for everyone to fight for me while I'm alive, and not just if I die by the police. And so I think there's a misconception about what this is and why people are talking about the workplace or theater or all the things. It's like Black lives, life, alive. I want to be alive and feel these things. I don't want a hashtag. I want to be counted now. And that is why every Black person in this country is exhausted right now, because we know we can't fake it anymore. It's like, God, we've all been found out. We can't go back. We can't go back now. And so that means that in order to push forward, we're going to have to speak our voice, which means we're going to lose jobs, which means we're going to lose friends, which means it just means a lot. And it makes us want to take a big nap a lot, which is why we go away a lot.
Self-care.
It feels good. I love the desert. I don't know if you've ever been. It was my first, when we were scared and we didn't go outside, but it was wonderful from the inside.
That was a lot. That's a lot to process.
It is. It's a lot. And we didn't know. Like, we knew, but we didn't know. Mm-hmm. And then there's the like resentment and the anger of just like people going, wow, the racism is real. And it's like, I've been telling you for so long. And you just stop telling people, because people either want to say, well, it happened to me once, or they make you feel foolish. So you just stop talking about it.
then the like optimistic lens on the same exact thing is I can relate it to, okay, the earth is round statement. At first that was a radical thought, and then like the swell of more and more people believe, and now it's just taken for a fact, you know. And so all right, Black Lives Matter, and or just these being the legit realities of the lives of Black Americans, that was a thing that was just on the peripheral now, but now it is the tipping point, like, and the actual tipping is turbulent, but everything that goes from where it doesn't, where it was to where it needs to be has a tipping point. And so if this is that tipping point to get to the post tipped life, then like, all right,
And a
it's
lot
it's
of
a
people,
turbulent
yeah.
move, but it's necessary and it's happening.
And a lot of people are putting their money where their mouth is for the first time ever. That I will say. Not everybody, and I can tell the difference, but there are a lot of people that are like, I want to make a difference, and that was in May, and they're still doing it now, and I'm like, all right,
Hmm.
I trust you. And then there are the people that I know that aren't, and I'm not even like, I've stopped being like angry about it because I just don't think that that's not useful for my. And there's enough. I think honestly that there's enough people now that want to create change so that it will happen. And what we were talking about with a choice, we have the choice to either believe that and like sit on the couch and like stare at the wall because depression is sad, or to believe it and know that there's enough people and that we can help change, because both are right. So you have to just go with the one that you want to happen and just like do it. Otherwise you won't accomplish anything.
Right. But
And
I really appreciate I mean, Vasti, I follow you religiously on social media, and I have reposted so much of your writing because I find it so illuminating and so powerful and so just helpful. Just it's just incredibly helpful. Like I learn from you, I'm inspired by you, and I appreciate how you are using your voice so powerfully.
Thank you. It's still so new. Afterwards, I'm like, oh my god, because he knows. I was like, oh, people liked what I wrote, and he goes, okay. I was like, but that means they're reading, and he goes, I don't understand what the problem is.
We
well,
love
the
Out there
same.
for people to read it?
I, I'd like to hear, yeah, Mason, how, because you're doing it with poetry, and how do you reach, because, you know, being a gay man, we read poetry, but Black men in the South, although one of my classmates just wrote a book on poetry, I never saw, I went to school, it was probably 80% Black. I didn't see poetry books being carried around by Black men in the South. How are you reaching?
So it's come through the avenue of spoken word poetry, and that's the, and by kind of extension poetry slam,
Right.
is a format of that where they just turn spoken word poetry into a competition using the loose skeleton of like half open mic, half rap battle, half gymnastics judging system. Um,
Gotcha.
and and so everyone would come, they do these poems, and then there's random people in the crowd be like, "Oh, you have that poem a 9.2. Ah, great, great, great. Somebody's gets a winner, they get $50 and nice." And this happened in like bars and cafes, just so under the radar through the 80s, 90s, and then early 2000s started getting to be a hit of sorts, but still pre YouTube. And so if you didn't know where the thing was happening, you had no idea that this type of poetry existed. And so it's kind of like a fusion of poetry and hip hop and stand up comedy and theater.
It's
Okay.
extremely powerful. I was texting Mary Mitchell yesterday. I was watching you and I was crying.
And so
It's so
and
good.
so part of it, part of what then lets us be able to access like those kids who know exactly who you're talking about, because I was exactly that kid myself in high school, where like just using the word poetry puts one thing in their head
Hmm.
and automatically has them thinking, oh, this is gonna be
Well, me
this.
too, I
But
guess.
we're in school, so I have to go to this assembly. Okay, at least I'm not in math. And so they're coming in with that, and then when you hit him with the okey doke, and you spring it on him, then it's everyone in the auditorium, and I'm thinking of like a high school auditorium.
Right.
It's all of their first exposure to poetry. They all walk in thinking it was this, and now they know, like, not only is it not just this, but it can be this, but then it can be wherever I want to do with it. And it's kind of like what we were talking about with the detention center work, where you're just giving them another way that they can channel their voice. And so what, like, middle and high school kid doesn't isn't kind of searching for a way to accurately express themselves when they look around and, like, nothing is saying what they're feeling quite right for them? It's like,
Hmm.
well, just say literally exactly how you feel.
And he coaches them as well. He coaches a lot of the young poetry teams. It's so cool to hear. For the first time, I'm able to hear it because he does it virtually. It's really cool.
I
Right. And
love
you're
it.
nearby because we're all nearby. Everybody's
We're all here.
Right over there.
We've done like how many events would you say? Like almost 4.
And like
We've
hundreds,
almost done like 300, like over 300 events in this apartment since this started. Graduations, weddings,
wow.
all sorts of things. So it's so interesting. I'll come out to get like a cup of water, and there's like he's like running a high school graduation. I'm like, this is our life right now. But
Hey
it's
everyone. Hey everybody. Just kidding.
graduation. Welcome to the world. Here, because I always use the analogy because I've been teaching a lot of kids that age. And I was like, basically, we're like, happy graduation. And we're handing them like a planet that's like covered in tar from global warming, racial unrest, like civil, like all this stuff. I'm like, go make something of yourself. And they're like, what am I supposed to do with this? And so it's good. This kind of thing is great because because they are feeling, I can't imagine going through puberty and graduating from high school, going through this. I really can't. And so what he does is so, I'm not saying more important, but it is really important because those are the kids that are going to take care of us when we're old, and they're confused and they're feeling pain, and it's so important for them to like express.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and even outside of these specific quarantine times, is like every single person has gone through the experience of thinking that some thought or feeling that they had, that they were the only one who has that, just because in the world that they look out and see, they're not seeing that reflected. And so when you go to a poetry place, and me having been to tons of them, like, and the feeling when you connect and see that thing that you thought was only in you coming out of someone else's mouth, like, that connection is that's what keeps people coming back to poetry events. And so you do that week after week, night after night, and before you know it, you have all of these, like, very subtle but, like, real unique connections with people who were strangers before that. And then when you visualize that web expanding, you see just humanity different.
And that's what we need right now. Yeah, that's what we need. The web of connection, humanity. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Ooh, deep. I will say, Vasti, the work that you're both doing with young people is also amazingly important.
It's amazing.
They're also going to grow up and take care of us.
That's true.
I know people forget that. People.
No,
No, that's why I was like, I'm trying to get on their good side.
yeah, get in there, getting good.
Like, hey guys, here's some candy. Take care of me. It's like,
Exactly, because I don't have any and won't have any kids. Yeah, these are going to be our doctors and our nurses, and it's like,
I have a question. What advice do you have for adults who are trying to find their voice or use their voice?
Do you want to go for? Can I go first?
Yeah.
Or do you want I honestly think what we were talking about before with meditation. I think unless you are silent, I think so much of the answers in the world and our soul, like I feel like our souls always know what they want. I feel like there are spirits around us always telling us all these things. But if you're moving around and you've got the TV on all the time, you're binge watching a show, or you're listening to music all the time, and like things, I'm saying that because that's what I did. If that's always happening, and it's something I always have to make sure I'm aware of when I do, then you're not going to hear all that stuff. You're not going to hear what you truly need to hear. I think meditation is way more important than people think it is. And I think baby steps start with 5 minutes a day and like build up, but you have to sit in silence and breathe. And when you do it, I always say for me, I think that my body was trying to tell me to stop, and so it was putting me in pain and all that stuff. And I was like, whatever, body, I've got stuff to do. And then my soul like made me. I was like going through this depression. I was like, whatever, depression. I know what I'm gonna do. And then like one night, my soul and my body were like, hey, so she's not listening to me, she's not listening to you. Do you want to join up together and just knock her down? Which is what happened. And so now I make sure every day, no matter what's going on, that my body and my soul are hanging out and they're friends because they need to be. And there's a beautiful quote by Naria Waid. She's a poet, and she said, and I said to my body softly, I want to be your friend. And my body took a deep breath and said, I've been waiting my whole life for this. And that's what it is. When we combine them and we make them friends, I honestly think so much is capable. And you'll know what to do. People know what to do. You know what to do. You know when something's wrong. We know what to do. We just have to listen.
And also, so Vasti took the inward view of the question, or like my mind first went to all right, using your voice out, and I think it's if you're new to the voice, or just finding, crafting, honing your voice and trying to see where it should be. I think the first thing to do would be to listen to the other voices that have been speaking, and to believe them first. Where a lot of people want to put their voice over top of other voices. I'm not. It's not exactly as clear in my head as what I'm trying to say. But like, if you're trying to find your voice in a conversation that may be new to you, okay, listen to the folks who are there. Listen to what has been said in this, and just make sure the first use of your voice isn't yeah but, or no but,
the word but in general.
yeah. That's a thing that I find, like a Black Lives Matter, no, all lives matter, like it's always preceded by no but. It's like, no, just like,
Right.
yes, and
I wrote something on social media.
yeah.
I wrote something on social media this week that was basically saying your personal anecdote does not invalidate someone else's experience. And I'm so tired of personal anecdotes being like used as statistical.
Yo,
like
my great uncle lived to be 110 and he smoked a pack a day, so
right.
I mean, whatever.
Exactly, those kinds of things.
And you'd shared that thing because I read what you wrote, and I like commented because I was like, that I was just going through a minute ago that when I read that, I was just thinking that because someone was driving me crazy. And it was the thing that you shared for me, oh my gosh, what's her name? She wrote about infant.
Brene Brown. I'm sure it's
Brene Brown. She's my favorite. I'm like, what am I talking
you're
about?
You're quoting me. It was probably Brene Brown.
Yeah. It's Brene Brown with her thing on empathy, because I read Brene Brown was a huge part of me feeling helping my soul when I was under. I hope I get to meet her one day. But she's so much of the reason why I started being braver, daring greatly, all this shame. But she writes something beautiful about empathy, and I think honestly, with everything going on, the main thing is just empathy. It's such a strong, it's the most powerful tool to like change the world, is just empathy. It literally would just change everything.
Right. It would stop us from screaming at each other and actually listening.
Mm-hmm.
We have been going long because this is so amazing, but we should wrap up and move into our lightning round. Look, Keith, Dr. Keith.
Yeah, I got patients knocking at the door actually.
I know.
Oh no.
Okay, I have a lightning round. You ready? I'm going to ask both of you a question. Yeah, get ready. You actually both have to answer separately. I like Mason's like
competition.
At the same time, yes, it's a competition. We're judging.
No, it's not a competition. Here we go. All right. What is your favorite thing to do for self-care, Vasti?
Meditation and walking.
Mason.
Go for a run.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
What do you love to do first thing in the morning?
Make coffee.
Make tea.
What is your favorite food?
Popcorn.
The little kernels that remain in a bowl of popcorn.
Those are good.
No, he's being mean because he said I don't make good popcorn, so don't clap.
Amazing. Beach or mountains?
Oof.
Mountains for me.
It's beach.
Where do you think of as home?
New
My
York.
mom's house.
New York City.
What was yours, Mason?
My mom's house, where I grew up.
How do you deal with being angry?
It's new, so I go for a walk. Now I go for a walk. I'm like, okay, I need to go for a walk, and I go for a walk.
I probably pace around silently.
He does face around silently.
What sound do you love?
I love the sound of popcorn popping. It's so great. You know that something exciting is coming.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Whatever is happening outside, that's a noise not created by human beings.
Nature.
Any noise, yeah.
If you were a spice, what spice would you be?
Garlic powder.
On popcorn.
I was gonna say on popcorn.
Sea salt.
On popcorn kernels.
Well, I'm gonna go pop some popcorn.
Me too.
Me too.
Today.
This episode sponsored by Orville Redenbacher.
I wish they need to support the children. Dr. Keith, anything
Well,
next week?
you know, you brought in next week's guest. I don't remember.
Our next week's guest is Bobby Steggert, who Broadway performer Bobby Steggert, who is now a therapist. Bobby Steggert.
Ooh.
Yes, and he is going to talk to us about self-care with therapy.
Oh yeah, and it's National, I think, Suicide Prevention Month, so we're going to be talking a little bit about that.
Which
You
is
know, and wellness.
It's
So
also Arts Education Month, just so
it's
you know.
what?
Arts Education Month.
Ooh, that's good to know.
Oh, and we're in Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome Month too, Awareness Month.
There's a lot of awareness.
Grandparents' Day is September 13th. There's a
And
lot
if
going
you-
on.
And if you have grandparents with polycystic ovaries, and
And the last important thing is that my birthday is September 7th.
happy birthday.
That is actually very important. And if you follow Vasti on social media, you will know that setting up a present for Vasti is a
$5. $5.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do ask people to get me presents
Oh, no.
every year.
I'm on
It
it.
works. It works. Just ask people and they'll give you presents.
They
That's
will.
right. You just got to ask for it, like the
Yes.
universe. Ask the universe.
And
the
be
universe.
open.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you guys so much. This was
Thanks for
lovely.
joining.
Thanks y'all for coming. Thanks,
Thanks.
ASTAP.
Bye.